So have you ever been climbing the greatest superhero of all time mountain, and then before you reach the top, you just sort of just settle. You just light a fire, put the tent up, and just take a break for a while with the peak in sight before you continue on your journey?
Well, we did. We're packing up the kit. We've just had our breakfast, and we are getting back on the trail to the top of the Who's the Greatest Superhero of All Time mountain.
Okay, so it's the quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals.
Oh my
God.
God.
Close to being done.
This is the thing. This is the thing that's gone on for a long time.
Yeah.
So the thing, what's difficult, changing it up every time. You know, trying to do something different.
For you guys.
Yeah, and for this round, we decided that you have been so good, and we have valued your opinion a lot, and we think the quarterfinals are your round. You're going to vote. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about a classic run in the character's history.
Yep.
For example, today, Spider-Man versus Iceman. I'm going to talk about Spider-Man Blue. You're going to talk about X-Men Zero Tolerance, which is a classic Iceman arc, supposedly. And
maybe, I don't know.
Okay. And so then, you know, we're going to maybe there's some arguments lying in these classic runs.
Yeah.
And if they're there, we're going to give them to you, and then you, in the comments of this video, are going to vote.
Indeed, that is how we're going to do it. So I suppose we'll dive straight in with Spider-Man versus Iceman. So
should I go? Yeah.
You go first.
Okay.
You go first.
That's what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. So Spider-Man Blue. I could have chosen a number of things, by the way.
Yeah. Spider-Man is one of those characters.
A lot of classic arcs. The reason I chose this was because it's sort of a retelling of classic Spider-Man, and also Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Tim Sale specifically, Long Halloween, that Superman book I reviewed that time.
Kryptonite?
Yeah. Although, anyway. And so what is great about this is that it really is, this is a retelling of like specific incidences that actually did happen in the comics.
Okay.
You know, the Mary Jane Face It Tiger, you've hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
That's an actual panel, an actual comic. But then you have this narration.
It happened.
It happened. Then you have this narration over the top of Peter Parker years later thinking on about those times. So you get kind of a more emotional. But then at the same time, you get all these classic villains. You get the Vulture, you get Rhino, you get Green Goblin, you get Lizard.
I was hoping you'd say Shocker. I don't know why.
No Shocker. But you know, so you get all these classic villains, and then you also get this romance thing. So really, in these 6 issues, it's a retelling of that classic Spider-Man time, the classic Spider-Man story. And I really enjoyed it. Tim Sale makes a real effort to make it look like the Ditko Romita Senior stuff, but also having his own spin on it as well. Yeah. You know, he tries to make it look classic, and that's really great. One of the things that I got from this that I've never gotten from Spider-Man before, in fact, it's always been a sort of thing where it's always sort of put me off Spider-Man, which is, I've always thought about the quips and just like, he can be just like, he just quips all the time, like, oh, and they never really make me laugh, and I just never really got it. And for some reason in this book, like, there's a moment where, you know, he is in the shit, like, he's just down, and he's depressed, and yet he goes out to fight this, he goes out to fight the Vulture, and he's quipping again, and all of a sudden, instead of that transition not making sense, all of a sudden it was like, oh, that's really sad. Like, maybe, hang on, it just sort of clicked that it's like, maybe that's his coping mechanism.
Yep.
Maybe that's sort of his way of dealing with it. You know, and you know, and you've got his narration over the top that stuff is not good for him, and he's, you know, things are messed up, and he doesn't like it. And yet, in his speech bubbles, he's happy-go-lucky Spider-Man still, and he's like trying to keep up that front. And there was a real sadness there, which I'd never experienced before. And I haven't read a lot of Spider-Man, and this definitely, if you haven't read a lot of Spider-Man, maybe you can't make up your mind.
Oh, maybe you can't.
And you want to pick at that as well. But no, I think that's something, you know, you're thinking Iceman, Spider-Man, that sort of sadness to Spider-Man that not a lot of people pick up on. I think that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of the difference between Spider-Man and Peter Parker, isn't it? That Peter Parker has this depressed kind of attitude.
Yeah, but Spider-Man can't really afford to.
Yeah, so the second the mask goes on, it's Spider-Man, all that jazz. Yeah, no, great. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Iceman, about the storyline Operation Zero Tolerance, which came out in '97.
It was a crossover of a couple of different books.
Yeah, I didn't read. I don't think I read the crossover ones. I think I just read the X-Men.
Yeah, 6 X-Men issues.
Yeah, just the X-Men arc, and essentially at the start of the book, all the X-Men are taken out of commission. You know, your Cyclopses, Wolverine, Storm, all them out of commission, and there's only one major member of the X-Men left, and it's Iceman, Bobby Drake. So this is kind of, you know, how he handles with the situation, and it really kind of goes into how he feels as a member of the team and how he's felt in the past and how he needs to step up now. What I will say about Zero Tolerance is it really does come from the 90s, and it's not good. Not even the art. Like, the art's not great. It ain't as bad as Liefeld, but it ain't far off as well. It's kind of a unique X-Men look that I grew up with because those are the issues I used to read, but at the same time, yeah, it's not the standard that you get today, but the writing is not good. It's so expositional and just treats the audience like children, which, I mean, I suppose they were at the time, but it just, it reeks of exposition. But having said that, the stuff with Iceman and the stuff with Bobby Drake really does shine, and you do see how this character's gone from, there's a brilliant bit where he's talking about having to step up to this kind of leader role and help out and stuff, and he's like, you know, I always let Cyclops do that. Yeah. Cyclops was the serious one. Marvel Girl had her thing, you know. Beast was the intellect. I was Iceman. I was the funny guy. I was the quippy, you know. Don't take him seriously. But now I have to step up to the plate, and that was a great thing to see with this character. And I think it's something that him as a character has really been tapped into in recent times now, and back then, is where he fits in the X-Men. Because he's not as popular as other members of the X-Men. You know, he isn't the Cyclopses or anywhere near the Wolverines. However, saying that, he's so important in that team, and he has so much potential. And that's kind of what everyone always wants to get out of him, is his potential. And that's what I think is great about this character, is he is constantly coming out with new surprises, like the Jason Aaron run recently on Wolverine and the X-Men. I remember in the first couple of issues, Wolverine takes him to the side and goes, "Listen, kid, like, this is now your time to shine. We're going to make something of you." And I think that really speaks volumes about that character.
Yeah, well, I remember, I've said on the show before, there was an issue of the Uncanny X-Force. Remender, I think it was right now.
Yeah.
And they go into the Age of Apocalypse, and in that age, there is an Iceman that is completely tapped into his powers, and the way that Remender shows that is just fantastic, and like, he is dominant, like, he batters them all, and so that's always sort of been hanging out with Iceman.
Yeah, and that's as I said, what I really like about that character is there's so much potential there for him, and it's this constant evolution of that, and so I think that's what makes Iceman just fantastic.
Lovely. So they're the two characters.
That's it for today. We're only doing 2.
Yeah. So I mean, it's completely different to what we've done before. We're changing it. You know, we're going back to the comics. These are where the characters come from. A lot of times you can have a lot of misconceptions in your head, and you've got bits of TV shows and things like that. So we're going back to the comics. We're looking at some classic stories, and so now it's up to you. Who do you think should win? Should it be Iceman? Should it be Spider-Man? The winner will go through to the semi-final.
How very exciting
for either Dick Grayson or Rogue.
Yeah, because Rogue got through. So leave those comments down below. You can also tweet the show over at Comic Book Show 1. You know, tell us what you think of the new format.
You absolutely can. Yeah. And don't forget to join us on Friday, where we will be talking about some of the books that we have been reading.
We'll see you then.